Hello everyone, my name is Wolf and today I am going to show you how to find colors that fit together and how to come up with a block palette in Minecraft. For this we will be needing a bit of color theory, and that sounds more difficult than it really is. So first of all we have to understand the color wheel. You might remember most of this from somewhere, but just to go through the basics one more time, the color wheel consists out of the three primary colors red, blue and yellow. And out of those you can mix the secondary colors orange, green and purple. And when you mix each primary color with a secondary color, you get colors like orange, yellow or blue, green, and so on. Those are the tertiary colors. The only important thing now is that you remember the position of the colors in the color wheel. Honestly, the rest is not important for this. But you also have to understand shades and tint. If you add black and white to a color, it gets lighter and darker. So if you add black to red, you get a dark red, but if you add white, you get pink. If you add black to blue, you get a dark blue, and if you add white, you get a light blue. These tints and shades also have a spot on the color wheel, and we put them in the exact same spot as the original color. Other than that, we also have brown, black and white, but we won't pay much attention to it now. So how would you come up with a color palette now? For this there is a system, so you don't have to guess. I will show you 8 examples of this, and each one is called a harmony. So the first harmony we will be going through is the analogous harmony. It consists out of colors that are next to each other, for example yellow, yellow-green, green and green-blue. The second one is the complementary harmony. Just take two opposite colors like blue and orange or red and green. And because pink is in the same spot as red, you could also take green and pink. Using two colors opposite to each other is creating a rather big contrast, which puts special emphasis on each color. You can also combine the first and second harmony I showed you. So you could take 3 colors next to each other plus one opposite color, so that you have colors that are similar, but you also have a contrast. For example, you could take purple, blue, blue, green and orange or yellow. The fourth one is the monochromatic harmony. For this harmony you just take variations of likeness of one color. For example, you could take white, light gray, gray and dark gray or black. A second example would be dark blue, blue, light blue and even lighter blue and white. In a double complementary we would take 2 times 2 the opposite color. So basically this is a complementary harmony but 2 times for one color palette. So for example you could take purple and yellow and also blue and orange. Then we also have the split complementary harmony. In this one we take instead of the opposite color the 2 colors next to it. So for example if we will take red, the opposite would be green, and next to that would be yellow-green and blue-green, so we take those 2. Honestly the last 2 harmonies are a bit difficult to use, but just for the completion, the 7th one is the triadic harmony. So you just lay a triangle on the color wheel, and you take each corner. For example, you could take red, blue and yellow. And the last harmony is a square. Similar to the triadic harmony, you would instead lay a square on the color wheel, and each corner is again showing which color you want to use. An example for this one would be green, purple, red and yellow. But as mentioned before, these 2 are a bit difficult to use. Bit hard to use all in one build, especially when it is a bit smaller. I guess you already noticed I used honey blocks as a yellow-orange, but as well as a light orange, and that is because we don't have that many colored blocks in Minecraft. But even like this it will work just fine. Then of course, if you have colors that are quite similar to one another, you also can build a gradient, and that will come in as quite useful later when we color the builds. So when you already know you want to have a certain mood in your build, you might want to think about what colors you want to use first. So for example, colors like blue and purple are rather cold, and that would work for a really cold looking build. And the opposite would be a rather warm look like red, orange and yellows. Then again, you could think it even a little bit further, like if you want to have a dark build, you could use black and grays. And if you want to have a rather soft look, you might want to go with pastels or light colored blocks. And to make it a little bit more complicated, for every color there is a colder and warmer version. Like for example for white, you could use quartz as a warm white and snow as a cool white. So these are rather colorful colors, but of course you don't want to have a build completely out of those colors. So for this reason, colors like grey, black, white and brown come in quite handy, since they are a bit more neutral. For neutral colors you can use most stones and wood. So when you want to come up with a block palette, you might want to start with a few colorful blocks and then add a few neutral blocks also to it. Now I will show you 3 examples of different block palettes and how to come up with your own one. First, you would either decide a harmony you want to use or choose a block you really like and want to use in a build and then go from there. Then you would want to find blocks that match in color and pick a few of those that you like or that are easy to get for you if you play in survival. Make sure to not overdo it and just take about 3 to 6 depending on the size of your build, just to add a bit of texture variation, or you might wanna build a gradient with those. And unless you don't want to build a completely colorful build, I recommend adding a few more neutral blocks. How to use all of this I will show you in these 3 examples. In my first example I went with an analogous harmony going from yellow to dark orange. Also I added a monochromatic harmony in the bottom in the stone area going from light grey to dark grey, and also I added a little bit of dark orange. So as you can see, the orange and yellow are my really colorful bright blocks, and for the neutral colors I have different greys and few browns and also sandstone. Because of the sandstone and the overall color choice, this build has a very warm feeling to it, and though it is really quite simple, it's looking much better than this uncolored build. For the second example I wanted to use a bit more different colors, so I went with a double complementary harmony using pink and green and also blue and orange. And as you can see, I used the warmer colors more in the top area while the bottom is looking a little bit cooler with the blue. The challenge in this one definitely lied in balancing all these different colors so that it doesn't look like it's too much. So for my block palette I went with a few different pinks and also built a gradient going from light orange to dark orange. The contrast to the pink is the green, and as you can see I also used leaves. Contrast for the orange are a few blue blocks, and I also added in a few gold ore blocks for a really high contrast. For the neutral colors I went with white going to beige and going to brown and dark brown. And to connect the brown and the blue I also have this brown glazed terracotta which has blue and brown in it, which is looking really good as connection. For more details I added hanging signs and also a few flowers in front of the windows. And this last example is very simple, although very high in contrast. I used 2 gradients going from light grey to dark grey in the bottom and from light grey to white in the top. To add in a tiny amount of color I added these gradients going from red to light red, and to add a little bit of contrast to that I added in a few leaves at the bottom. For the roof I just used deep slate blocks to keep it simple and to not overdo it with the gradients. So to summarize this all, it's not that hard to come up with a block palette when you put a bit of thinking into it. The more colors you use, the more trickier it becomes to find a balance. Don't be afraid to use more than one harmony and gradient. And of course you can also go absolutely wild with the colors too if you'd like to. I hope I was able to show you at least a little bit how to find blocks for building, and until the next time, goodbye!